this is a very special hunt for you.
Just, staring at those pictures going, man, is he big enough? Really had to rely upon Onyx hunt.
The weather's bipolar.
Couldn't turn up a deer to save her life. So he just tapes him like super fast and he like pulls him up at 186 right away. So I'm like, all right, All
right, guys, we're back with another episode of Let's Assess. Thanks for tuning in. It's BC and
AJ,
and we're back with another episode. So before I get into it, if you're watching this on a podcast platform, please leave us a review. It's going to help us grow and help us reach more people and help more people. We appreciate it. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you get down in the comments and say whatever you want. Hate, do whatever you want. So today we are going to talk about AJ's hunt that is quite interesting. And we got back today. I was out riding the Razor, so I'm caked in dust. And AJ texted me. He's like, dude, I think we should shoot one tonight. So we're grinding late for you guys. And we're going to tell you a good story here with AJ's hunt. So,
yeah, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode here. We're going to talk about my hunt. It was in Unit 10 here in Colorado, which is in the northwest corner, one of the trophy units. It was a limited license draw hunt. I saved points from 12 years old up until I drew it. And when I drew it, I think I had 13 or 12 points, I think. So that was, a pretty good weight for that tag, and it was a pretty awesome unit. I was really looking forward to it. I ended up hunting its second season, so that was like, with its season dates changing, it was, I want to say, end of October, early November. So mule deer were just starting to rut, and we were hunting mule deer out here. So, my goal was, obviously the biggest buck I could find, and it was, I don't want to say like 180 inch or bust, but it was like, man, I really, really wanted a 180 plus buck out of there, just as good as the unit was and what I expected, waiting that many years for out of the hunt, other than just a good experience. So we started off early in the summer doing a little bit of scouting. I remember it was late in the fall, and me and two other buddies drove out there, and one evening, just a random evening during the week, and we saw like 3 bucks that were, well over 180 and really good bucks. So
this was in the middle of the summer? Yeah,
middle of the summer. Like, shoot, probably, even early October, maybe late September.
So before you, I mean, obviously this isn't just a normal hunt. This is like, this is a very special hunt for you.
Yeah.
So how is it different from just hunting the same place you always do? Like, what did you do when it comes to like e-scouting? Did you do any e-scouting, or how do you go about that? Or for the people that can't just go out and look at their unit, they don't live around here, what would you recommend?
Yeah. So, I mean, this was kind of a really, really unique hunt for me in that aspect, because I never had hunted Unit 10. My dad had never hunted Unit 10. And, I really had to rely upon Onyx hunt. And that's where, I found a bunch of springs. It was a really, really dry year. A lot of the ponds didn't have water in them. So we were like looking for certain springs on different mountains, different places we can hike into, places we could drive the Ranger by, just check for, movement of deer. So you really used Onyx hunt. That was, you could zoom in, you could go into the 3D mode, etc., and just see the different faces. And something I really look for is like cliff features, because, those big bucks, they don't like to be like down in a draw or anything like that. They want to be up on a cliff and be able to see their surroundings and around. So, look for some like maybe cliff features over some big sagebrush flats. Obviously there's no exception for that time of the year other than just finding does. So I knew, getting out there and just finding does was what we had to do as soon as we were hunting. But I'm not even a big scouter. Like, I don't like going out there and spending a ton of money scouting. I don't believe in it, because I've never really had a big success on like finding an animal scouting and then actually killing that animal. It doesn't matter, elk, deer, whatever. So I was, I really like the e-scouting, and just finding water is my biggest thing. If you got water, you're going to have animals no matter what. And then just, certain terrain pieces, like I know I was looking for those cliff areas, and then also just looking for, deer habitat. So maybe some brushes, some oak brush, some, I think it's sarvisberry brush or something like that. The deer they're a browser. They eat brush. They don't eat necessarily grass or anything like that. So water, brush, and maybe some cliff areas. And I knew we'd be in a decent area. So I had a couple of those locations found, and that was, good e-scouting there. But mainly we just went into it blind. I spent maybe two nights out there before season actually looking. And then,
dude, that's not what I hear most of the time. These people are like, I scouted for 8 weeks every single day and night to find, before I got my trophy tag.
Yeah. And that's exactly, I think so many people put so much effort in it. And then, if you're enjoying the process, I believe it, do it, But like me, I work so much that time of the year that it's like, man, I got to get this done so I can go hunt for that week or whatever. When I have that tag in my pocket, I want to hunt at that point. So that's when I really focus my time. And so kind of get back to it there, we did a little e-scouting, went out there that night with my two buddies, saw some really, really nice bucks. That got me super excited. I was like, oh man, this is going to be good.
And before you go any further, you were rifle hunting?
Rifle hunting. Yep. Rifle hunting. So it was, the general second season for Colorado. So it's, rifle tag. There'd already been obviously archery and muzzleloader hunters out there. So, maybe a couple of those bucks that I had saw might have got taken out at that point. So I knew that, but with it being a limited draw area, there really could have only been, I think it was like 6 deer taken. So
6 deer taken per year.
Yes. Well, 6 deer in archery and muzzleloader alone. So,
okay.
And then I think there was 10 tags or 12 tags, something like that for second season rifle. So, very limited deer getting killed out there. But, with that being the case, I knew not a ton of the big bucks, could have even possibly gotten killed. So, stood a good chance and knew we stood a good chance. So we set up out there, I want to say the day before, or maybe 2 days before the hunt. We got out there, me and my dad, and started doing some, just driving around, seeing where we were seeing some does, located a good amount of does in some places and was like, all right, we'll just keep hitting these. And then we were on our way out of there. And we actually saw this buck like coming into water at one of the watering holes I had found. And he was probably like a 170 buck. He was a pretty nice buck. He was just a plain 4x4, good brow tines, and really nice buck. And I told my dad, I was like, man, if he's there in the morning, I don't know, I might have to shoot him.
So you said this is the night before the season?
Night before season, yeah. Okay. And
so I'm sure you got a really good night's of sleep thinking about that.
Yeah, real great. I took pictures of him, and then of course, we got back to camp and just, staring at those pictures going, man, is he big enough? I'm trying to make him grow. I'm really bad about just like staring at a picture like, yeah, we can make him work, yeah. Even though he's never got bigger, the whole time. But so he's a good buck. And that was, just a good little, just like you said, they're making us sleep at night knowing there's a good buck out there. And we camped in an area that we thought, like I did some scouting, e-scouting stuff, and we went out there one time and saw this area, and I was like, man, there's going to be good deer in here. So we set up camp there, and where we had saw this other buck was probably 15 miles from camp. And so that opening morning, we weren't even going to go chase that buck because I decided like, okay, he's a nice buck, but not first day buck, right? Like I got too much time into this to shoot him. So we started hunting right there near camp, and it was just crazy because we thought for sure there was going to be deer in this area. And we didn't see a deer one the first day. Like, I don't know how many miles we didn't really hike much. We were just trying to find some deer. So we were in the Ranger and we were just cruising around trying to like locate some deer, and we just couldn't find a deer to save our life. So, here we are camped in this area, the unit's pretty big, and just couldn't turn up a deer to save our life. We're like, oh crap, what are we going to do? So we're like, next day we're going to go back over where we saw that other buck. There's deer there. We'll figure it out from there. So we got into it, and I didn't want to say probably the first 3 days we spent over in that, or I guess the first day we were at where there was no deer, and then the next 3 days we were looking in that other area, and we just weren't finding, that next bigger buck than that 170 buck. We found a ton of deer and a bunch of good water holes, a bunch of good brush, everything they needed. They just weren't the big bucks. And ran into a couple other guys, was talking with them. They were also looking for, the bigger buck that they could find. And then they weren't having any luck either. So we were actually thinking about, trying some different areas. So we didn't really pack up camp. We just figured we'd drive a little bit more, and went to bed that night. And we weren't staying in a camper. We just had a enclosed snowmobile trailer, so no insulation, nothing, just some cots on it, easy. Just get out of the weather essentially. And we woke up in the middle of the night and it was just getting cold. And we were like, man, the heater's not really keeping up. It's early November, it's starting to get there. And by the time we woke up, we had -20. And
what time? What?
It was like late October, early November, and like second season. It's just not really.
It was 20 degrees.
No, -20.
-20?
-20, yeah. So we were freezing in the trailer. I remember we had a 5-gallon like water pail just for doing dishes. It was frozen solid just sitting on the floor. So we're freezing cold. We get up, we like grab some breakfast, we get in the truck, and we're like, man, I guess we're gonna go hunt today, right? So we didn't take the Ranger that day.
This is why you archery hunt.
Yeah, exactly. Way warmer, way nicer.
Yeah.
And like I don't know how many years before second season I've like hunted and you're like in a t-shirt and like shorts almost, and you're like just dying. And the days before were super nice. So it's like super cold. And
dude, I hate that though. Like in Colorado, like everyone makes fun of this, but the weather's bipolar, dude. Oh yeah. Like last year in archery season, we had one weekend, I swear to God, our thermometer, the temperature gauge, whatever, the temperature gauge said 115 degrees in my truck.
Oh my God.
Out there.
Yeah.
And the next weekend, it was 30 degrees.
See that's such a wild temperature swing.
Yeah. Like people online insane. Will be like,
100-degree swing.
Well, yeah. And it's like, people will be like, what do I wear for archery season? I'm like, well, you better have like stuff like you're going into the Iraq desert, and then you need to have stuff like you're in like a snowstorm.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, luckily that's how we were like set up, because we always just have all our stuff with us. But exactly, in Colorado, you just never know what you're going to get thrown at. We didn't expect -20 by any means. And like no weather was showing it. Like they were showing it to get cooler, but not that. So yeah, so we, you just tough it out. You figure it out. I mean, you got, I think it was like 9 days to get it done anyway. You're like, well, we got to figure it out. So we started hunting that day, and we decided that getting out of the truck probably wasn't going to happen. So we did a little bit of road hunting, seeing if we could locate some new deer in some different areas we hadn't been yet. And really, it was kind of wild because it warmed up and like a layer of fog moved in, and we couldn't see anything hardly. And we were actually like really struggling to see some deer. And we were like, well, it's warming up. Maybe we need to, maybe do a little hike or something. So we looked at a place to go hiking. We like drive over to it, get out of the truck, start getting ready, and it just starts snowing. I mean, complete blizzard. And like that fog was just like that moisture coming in, it seemed like. And like that fog rolled through, and then all of a sudden it just started dumping. And throughout that day, we probably got a foot of snow that day. So I want to say it was like 3:00 in the afternoon. We like maybe hiked a half a mile, and was like, yeah, we're not doing this. It ain't worth it. You're not going to see a deer. They're bedded up. They were, you couldn't see good enough. Your binoculars kept getting snowed on. Like it just wasn't worth it. So we got back to the truck, and we're like, as cold as it was last night, let's run home, because we were, I don't want to say 2 hours from home.
You want to get the snowmobiles?
No, I wish, man. We should have. I got another hunt we'll have to talk about where we should have took the snowmobiles. but yeah, no, we decided, let's go home, get a shower, maybe eat a hot meal. Called my mom and was like, yeah, get us something warm cooked up for dinner. Yeah. We headed in early. Like, we'll gather our stuff together and we'll head back out in the morning early. So thank goodness we did, because it dumped another foot of snow, and the storm was plumb through there. We had 3-foot drifts. We couldn't even hardly get to our camp. Like we were chained up trying to get to camp.
Finally, left the trailer out there.
We left the trailer out there. Yep. So got out there, and was like, well, I guess, the weather it broke. It was clear. It was decent. So we're like, well, let's go do some hunting. And since that storm had moved out of there, and the way these storms roll through Colorado, as soon as the storm's out and it gets clear, it gets cold again. And it was like setting into winter, it seemed like. And we were right there back. I think it was -17 that day, and just miserable cold. So I remember we were driving around again, because we were like, well, we ain't hiking much again today.
Yeah.
So we were back in some of that new area again. And I just remember seeing these 3 does bedded down. And I mean, they had so much snow just on their head and their back. Like they had not moved. It was just such a shock to their system, I think, because the day before we were in t-shirts, and then boom, it was so cold, and then snow, and then cold again. And it was 3 days there that we stayed in like barely above zero, though, even during the day. And yeah, those deer, they just looked miserable. It was like, man, you feel bad for them.
They wanted to be shot.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, just shoot us. You know? I know you got a buck tack. It takes out our misery, man.
Yeah.
So, but no, we, you just got to keep grinding through those tough situations. And finally, the weather, started getting trending better and better, and we were just wearing some thicker clothes, and was able to get around, do some hiking. Ended up abandoning that other area even too. We were seeing deer. We were, actually in some mega tall sagebrush, was even like kind of standing on the truck in places, like trying to look, and then doing some, different, like try to get on top of some peaks and look down into it and stuff. And it just wasn't really turning up what we were after. So,
dude, but before you go on, so if you're out deer hunting, just for curiosity, in your opinion, and you're not seeing deer, does your mind go to cover ground in a vehicle?
Yes.
Or does your mind go to let's get on foot and see if we can't?
Yeah. So I think my opinion, honestly, is like cover ground in a vehicle.
Would you say the same
hunting.
thing with elk?
Gosh, it depends upon the area. The one thing that like with elk is you can hear them bugle, right? That time of the year when you're hunting them, you usually got some bugling to where you never hear that when you're in the vehicle. So unless you're in like really big open country, then I feel like you got pretty good odds, just covering country and finding animals. I think that anytime you're in big open country, get in a vehicle, cover country, and find the animals, because it's so big and open.
Even if you risk spooking them?
Absolutely. Yeah, I really think it's worth, just finding the animals. Obviously, you don't want to be driving around at 80 mile an hour in a Raptor, just causing chaos. But yeah, just go find the animals. You can't hunt them if you can't find them. So if it's big open country, cruise, get them found, and then, see if it's something where you're, curious and trying to get on. But if you're really hunting like in the woods or up in the mountains, obviously walking's going to be your best bet, because you wouldn't even catch a glimpse of them. Maybe they can hide so fast. So if you got a bunch of tree wood area, I would say your best, even deer hunting as well. You just got to do some walking, find some open parks, meadows. And I think it really limits you on the time of the days that you hunt, because like those animals aren't out in the middle of the day, right? But you can catch them. Like in this case where we were actually doing a lot of that cruising around in new areas during the middle of the day, just trying to find them bedded, right? Because we had nothing else going on. Let's just go try something new. So we were, just doing a lot of glass and a lot of spot and scope, binocular action, and just finding new animals. But if it's really wooded, like you think you're just stuck on the boots, and that's just the way it is. So
that makes sense.
But we thought, well, shoot, we're covering all this country in vehicles. I want to say it was day 5, and we were like, man, let's try something different. Let's maybe just walk in. And there are some areas that were protected. They're BLM, what are they called? Like study areas, I guess. And, so there's no roads in there. It's walk in only. So we threw the packs on, the gun in, and off we went. And we trekked up in there one evening.
So you can hunt those?
Yes, you can hunt those. Yep. Those are huntable. They're not restricted to anything like that. They're just hike only. So I think it's like in the BLM, there's like lines on onyx. It's like yellow and then lines through it. And then it means you can walk on it. You just can't drive on it, essentially. So got into one of those areas. And as we were walking up this big hill, we got into some deer. And my dad, he, guided for many years, killed a lot of big deer, a few over 200 inches, whatever. And I was like, he sees these deer up on the hill, and we're stopping, we're glassing. I'm like, well, what about these deer right here? And they were like 200 yards from us. And he like flicks his binoculars up, and he's like, oh, it's a narrow buck. Don't even bother your time. I'm like, okay. So he's like looking at these deer, and I'm like, I ain't seen anything up there I'm interested in. So I'm like, I don't know, look at these deer. So I like set up the spot and scope and looking, and I'm like, oh, this deer is a cool little kicker. It like kind of twists. He's got like good brow tines. He's pretty tall. I'm like, he's a decent buck, but he's narrow. And I'm like, I really think you should look at him. He's like, I ain't wasting my time looking at him. We got to keep moving. And I was like, okay, all right, cool. Let's keep going then. I was like, we're going to scare those deer. And he's like, that's fine. We're not interested in them. That's fine. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's cool, whatever. So, you're my guide. Let's go. So we take on up the hill, And, we got into more deer.
You're
Got
telling this story like this is going to come back to haunt you or something.
Absolutely, it does. 100%. Absolutely. Like day 5, here's this buck with this kicker. Should have shot it, right? Like, should have shot it. But whatever. We move on. Get up on the top of the big hill. We're, start glassing down. Oh, yep, there's those deer we spooked. They're a little lower, whatever. Oh, there's the other deer. Nothing really interested there. So, okay, let's go to the other side. We pop up on top, and we're like, because it was kind of like we were up on top, and then you went up another ridge, like, and got to the very top. So we get up there, and the other side of this ridge was private. So we're like, well, maybe, if we can get up there, maybe there'll be some like other deer that are like trafficking into this water, whatever. So we get up there, and there's a pretty nice 4x4 buck, pretty similar to the one that we'd saw the night before. Not the same buck for sure. This one was just a little bit different fork setup. And just like a good 170 buck. And I was like, man, I was laid down on a rock thinking about it real hard. And my dad was like, well, if that's, if you really want to get a deer, maybe you should. And I'm like, well, gosh, I really do want to get a deer, like this, I've waited a lot of time for this hunt. So I'm contemplating, and I'm like, nah, it's day 5. I'm not doing it. Like,
So you had 9 days.
9 days, yep. So I was like, yeah, now day 5 is just not worth it. So I've waited this long. If I have to shoot a buck on the last day this size, then I'll just like bank on the hope that we can find a 170 buck that day. So stand up, it's starting to get dark. So we start working our way down the hill, end up walking through all those deer again that, it was dark. We couldn't tell, what they were, but you could hear them kind of jumping around and moving. So got down to the truck, and I told my dad, I was like, man, I really hope I don't regret, shooting that 170 buck up there. And he's like, you won't. We'll find one. We'll find one. So next day, we're like, let's take the Ranger. Let's go into a different area. And I had heard of another buck being killed back up that way earlier in the season. He was a pretty nice buck. I was like, probably only one good buck up in there anyway. Probably shouldn't believe that way, but I was pretty just down on myself in the hunt, but whatever. So I'm like, yeah, let's go check it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you again.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, dude. Like, that's what's tough about hunting. And, like, I heard Cameron Haynes talking about it on a podcast the other day.
Yeah.
Like, I watched this a while ago. It wasn't the other day. He was talking about, like, that's what makes hunting so, like, a mental struggle is all these things of, like you talked about. I was thinking about it when you're talking about weather. So the way you imagine this hunt that you've been waiting for 13 years or whatever you said.
Yep.
You've been waiting and picturing and seeing this hunt a certain way.
Yep.
And then everything changes.
Absolutely.
And it's like, how well can you keep your head? How well can you execute? Because for those of you that haven't been out in a situation like this, snowmobiling's the same way.
Yeah.
It's like you picture everything happening a certain way. And then when it doesn't go that way, how well can you like regain focus and make the best out of a situation? Because a lot of people, especially out in nature, that are facing adversity, it kind of like closes in on them, and that like storms freak them out, and they, they're getting stuck, and that like, then just like you're talking about, should I have taken that buck? Was that a bad idea that I didn't?
Yep.
What's going to happen? So go ahead. But I just think that that's like, it's so overlooked in hunting.
Oh yeah,
because it's not like
Yep.
the adversity.
You get that adversity in there, and then it just
that
changes.
You can't control.
Yeah, you can't control any of that. Like Mother Nature's gonna do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And then like you're mentally already beating yourself up over that, and then something else happens, and you're just like mentally like going downhill. And that's where I was at that point.
Yeah, and then the pressure of waiting 13 years.
Exactly. Like
in
I
a
wanted
good unit, you better you want to execute.
Exactly. And I had, just like you said, I had fixated myself on the buck I wanted. I had fixated myself on like even the weather. Like, man, this is gonna be a good, nice hunt. Second season chose this, like, great, this is gonna be great. And then everything just went the other way, right?
Yep.
And so then, that night after that, I was on social media, and of course see the guy that killed the buck there, and it was like in the snowstorm. And I'm like, man, why did we go home? We went home and he killed this buck in the unit I'm hunting right
now.
Like,
another screwing.
Exactly, just screwing with my mind, right? And then you start, hearing it was this huge buck, this. And I'm like, my dad was like, you just got to put your phone down. Forget about it. We're going to have a good time. We're going to hunt. I was like, you know what? You're right. That buck's gone. He's dead. It's over with. Forget about it. Let's move on and let's go find a different one. So I just actually, I even quit even looking at social media completely, because that time of the year you're seeing huge bucks everywhere on social media anyway. It's like, gosh, it's just mind wash you.
Yeah, for me, it's like I don't really care how big it is. I just want something.
Right?
That first deer that I saw would have been
Nice
like,
little two-pointer.
does that thing have horns on it? Oh, yeah, I think so. All right.
Boom.
4, boom.
Yeah. Nice little scrub antler buck or
You
something.
could pick your teeth with the antler.
Yeah.
That's my kind
Nice
of buck.
floss. It's a good eater buck there
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get back out there that next day. I want to say it was day 6. I think it was a Thursday, and get into some other country, run into some more hunters. We're running into a bunch of like cow hunters up there, and this guy, we run into him. He's actually hunting in this out of this TP hunt or TP tent, and he's driving a Subaru Outback, and we're in our Ranger, and we're up on this gnarly road. And all of a sudden we come across this Subaru Outback in this teepee, and we're like, what is going on, right? And this guy like comes out to talk to us, and he had been hiking like up and down this huge peak and like couldn't find elk. And we were like, oh man, we can help you out. Like, we've been seeing elk. We haven't been seeing deer. Have you been seeing any big bucks? And he's like, oh, biggest buck of my life.
I hate that,
right
dude.
up over here, right?
I hate that.
And, it's just doing the guiding and trophy units. You just know, like, you just take everything with a grain of salt. Like, your biggest buck's different than my biggest buck of my life, right? So
that's for sure.
So this guy, we're like, yeah, he's in, not to like offend anybody, but it's like, hey, he's in a Subaru Outback. Like, okay, maybe, we'll go check it out, but what are the chances, right? 4x4 big buck though. We're like, all right, yeah, I mean, that's what we're after. So let's go check it out.
Yeah, you pull up on it. It's a 4x4 bull out.
Right? Yeah, no joke. So we put him in the direction of some elk. He ended up packing up camp and heading to the other place where we'd send him. And we're like, hey, here's our number. Like, if you get one down, call us. We'll help you like get it out.
You said he had a cow tag?
Cow tag.
Okay.
Yep. And there's a ton of different cow hunters, but a lot of them were just kind of being rude. It's like a competition. They didn't realize that we had a buck tag.
So how long does it take to get a cow tag in that unit?
Dude, I want to say it's like even a year or 2 years to get a cow tag out
in
there,
Unit 10.
In Unit 10. Like, same with like 10, 2.
But a bull's like 25.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So, but
I was thinking, why would you waste? Yeah.
Anyway, but meat hunters, it's like there's a lot of elk, so they can get a cow easily, or should be able to get a cow easily, right? This poor guy, he was just hiking in the wrong area, but he was putting the effort in, so we felt bad. So helped him out a little bit. I was like, hey, here's our number. If you get something down, call us. We're gonna go check out this buck though. So we keep going down the road, get up to where it's at, and we see these 2 deer like kind of hop running away from us. We're like, oh, okay. So we get out and look, and yeah, it's a 4-point, but he wasn't very big, he probably didn't even go 130. So like, well, yeah, that's probably what the deer was. But we were going to plan on hunting back in there that day anyway. So we spent the entire morning down there. Didn't really turn up anything we were after. So we just kind of kept the afternoon cruising. And we were on our way out, and we're like, well, let's just cruise back by where we hiked in and see if all those deer that we maybe scared off the ridge the night before were in the area again. So we get in there, we see some deer, but no bucks, actually, not at all. And I'm like, I wonder, someone may have got that buck, because he was a pretty nice buck, I thought. But someone may have got him. So it's getting dark. I mean, it is dark. And we load the Ranger up on the trailer behind the truck, and we're in the truck, and we start to take off. I'm like, let's just run this way just to the monument border, because Dinosaur National Monument borders right there with Unit 10. And we drive to the monument. And up on the ridge, there's this buck. Nice kicker. Looks good, skyline. And my dad's like, oh, that's that same that narrow buck. We're not interested. I'm like, okay, well, let's just look at him real quick because he looks cool. Snap a couple pictures of him. And, man, you're just in that rut. And we get back to camp that night. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to go back there. It's day 7. Tomorrow would be day 7. And if that buck with that sticker is in that area again and not on private, I'm going to shoot him. Like, I'm just like, I like him. I don't care what you think. I like him. I said, I don't care what he scores. I like the kicker, because it came out like a normal kicker, and then it kind of like twisted. And I was like, I just like him. I'll be happy with him. Like, that is like, I want that buck. I was like, all right, whatever you want. That's fine. That's cool. So we have good dinner and sleep good on that night. That's the best night I slept, because I knew I had my mind up. Like, I had that buck found. I'm going to kill that buck tomorrow morning.
I'm going to kill that son of a gun.
Exactly. So we sleep good. We get up the next morning. And as you know, like 7 days into doing the same thing over and over, up early, up late, we're tired. We're driving that way. We've drove this road the last 7 days. Somehow we missed the turn. Don't know how in the world, we both were just like day sleeping or, not really day sleeping yet, but dark sleeping still.
It's like booze cruising, only lacking sleep.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. We blow by the corner. And I mean, we probably went 5-6 miles before we were like, this ain't looking right. And then, you kind of come to and like, yeah, this ain't right.
Welcome to Utah.
Yeah.
It's
So
like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, literally. Yeah. So I pull out Onyx. I'm like, oh shit, Dad, we missed the turn. I was like, how'd you miss the turn? He's like, I don't even know. So we like whip around, head back. And we had purposely got up 15 minutes earlier that day to make sure we were the only one in at that like walk-in area to get on that buck if he was there. Well, that threw our 15 minutes out the window, right? It's like sun's coming up. We're just finally heading in the right direction.
Well, so you're leaving camp.
Yep.
Pulling the truck with the Ranger behind you.
Yep. So
like
we got
a ways.
Yeah, like about 15 miles because where we were camping didn't have anything,
Gotcha. So then you pull off, then you walk or?
Yeah, so we just were taking the Ranger with us just in case we were like, if we would be,
out.
yeah, I mean, whatever we needed it for. So we just always had it with us. Or if there's rough roads, we'd just take the Ranger. During the day, we were cruising more in the Ranger than the truck, just, because you don't have limited fuel out there. So, yeah, we got the Ranger behind us. We pull up. Finally get to where the deer was at, where we'd saw him the night before. And of course, he's not right where he was at. And thank goodness he would be on private. So we're like, well, okay, that's cool. And we actually drove by where we were going to turn in, looked on all the private first to make sure he wasn't on the private. We weren't just after a wild goose. And finally we're like, okay, cool. He's not there. Like, got to be maybe on the public. So we turned around, drove in on that 2-track and probably went maybe a quarter mile, half mile up on the 2-track, pick up with the Ranger behind us. And my dad goes, there's a bunch of deer right there. I'm like, okay, cool. So he like puts his binoculars up. He like, that deer's got a sticker on. I'm like, all right, cool. So like me, no hurry. Like I'm trying to stay calm. Like no way this is the buck, right? Like we had seen him up on the hill. Like we're going to have to walk to get this buck. There's no way he's right here. So I get the tripod out, set my spot and scope up and I go, oh shit, that is the buck. So then like my blood pressure just goes, whew, adrenaline's through the roof. So I go back to the truck, leave the spot and scope up everything. Dad puts the truck in park, shuts it off, He's looking, he's like, yeah, he's getting kind of anxious. I'm like, yeah. And so I'm getting the gun out and like walk in front of the truck. And there's a good rock, just, I don't know, maybe 100 feet, 150 feet off the 2-track. So I heading over to it. And as I'm walking over to it, I'm going to put one in the chamber. And I go to rack one in and had my bipod out, everything, go to put one in. And I mean, I took my 300 Win Mag for a deer, whatever. It's a good shooting gun. I knew I was comfortable with it. Great. Thing has never jammed. In my life of this gun, custom built, everything is perfect on it. It is dialed. It jams. I'm like, what is going on? Like, actually, it didn't jam. It wouldn't feed one. Like the bolt would not feed a bullet. Like it would not suck one. I don't know if I didn't have them in right or what. So I'm like panicking and I like kind of, I knew I had some bullets in my pocket. So I grabbed one out of my pocket, I put one in, and I go to push the bolt forward, and it feeds one, of course. So then I got 2 going into it. And you can imagine how that's going to work, right? Yeah. Doesn't work. And of course, in the panic, I like ram it in. So then it dents a casing on one of them. And I'm like, well, I don't want to use either one because each one of them could be damaged. Like, I don't want that bullet. So I like drop the plate out of the gun. Every bullet hits the ground. The does run off. Thank goodness for the rut. Like this buck is stupid. And he's standing there just like staring at me, and it's dusk and plenty of shooting light. Everything was good, but it was early in the morning for sure. And I grab one of those bullets off the ground, wipe it off good real quick, put it in there. Of course, I don't have any in the plate then. I think I got the plate shut. And I get laid down on the rock. And my dad's like, you better shoot. He's like panicking to me even more. I'm trying to get there. I'm already shaking so damn bad. Like I am the worst shaker in the world anyway. Finally, comfortable, pull the trigger. And by pull the trigger, I mean pull the trigger. I did not squeeze. And yeah, exactly. I shoot. And my dad goes, where'd he go? I'm like, I don't know. But I'm like scrambling to get another bullet thinking I got to, get another one in him. And he goes, I can't see him. And I'm like, and I can't find him. So we're both panicking, like, where'd he go? We didn't see him run off, anything like that. And so I get one in, I'm just waiting, like he might jump up, anything like that. So we give it about, 2-3 minutes. He doesn't move. Like, we don't see it. Well, we don't see him for one. And he hadn't jumped up and we saw him. So we're like, okay, well, let's just take the gun, calmly walk out there. I knew I had ranged him before I shot. So I knew it was like a 150-yard shot, super close. And so I range a bush out there. I know the bush. So we walk out to the bush and the sagebrush just gets super tall. And I'm like, shit, where's he at? So we actually spent the next 30 minutes trying to find this damn deer. He was dead, but every thought in your mind runs like, did he run off and we missed him? Like, was there a draw right here and that he snuck in and got away? Like, what did we mess up? And then finally I was like, let me walk back there and range you again and make sure we're in the right spot. So he runs back, ranges it, and he's like, no, you got to go further. Man, another 15-foot steps, and there he is, dead, piled up. He just dropped. Dirt nap, done.
3, 2, 1, dirt nap.
Exactly.
Good.
And 5-foot sagebrush, couldn't find him, of course. So there he is, got him, great. And we walk up to him. I'm happy as can be. I'm just tickled, right? I mean, that he's got that kicker. That's what I wanted. He's got these extra little points off his brow tines. He's got 2 actually off each brow tine that grows forward. Super cool character, waves in his antlers, his front forks, they just come up and they like curl up. Super cool buck. I'm ecstatic about it. And we take some pictures and everything, and I'm sitting back looking at him, and I asked my dad, I go, so what do you think he scores? Like, just, it doesn't matter what he scores, but just what do you think?
It doesn't matter, but it kind of does.
Exactly. Like, it just kind of does. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to do my dad dirty right now. He goes, maybe 160. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm good with that. Like, you know what? I didn't meet my goal 180, but I'm happy with this deer. Like, I'm mounting this deer. He's hanging up on the wall. I'm just tickled. So, get pictures, get him gutted, everything, get him in the truck, and get him headed to town, go pack up camp. And I keep looking at him going, I just think he's bigger than 160, I just think he's bigger than 160, but I'm like, no, maybe not. Maybe, I'm just crazy. Like, I shot him, like, he's cool, love him. I'm just making him grow. I do that with pictures. We get bounce our way out the county road with the trailer and everything. We get to the highway and I stop him. I'm like, I want to look at him again. So I look at him. Like, you got a tape measure? He goes, yeah. So he gets out his soft tape measure out of his pack, and we measure one of the back forks. I can't remember what it measured. I want to say it was 18 or something like that tall. And just the back, back tine, he was 18 inches tall there. And so I started, as we're driving to town, don't do this at home, kids, but my wife tells me every time, I'm on my phone, right? That's what I do. I'm driving on the phone.
Watching Netflix, doing little calculations on how big the buck is.
Exactly. You get a little size and action going. Like, well, if a buck has an 18-inch back fork, what does it usually score? Some, a lot of places are saying 180. And I'm like, no way. But I'm like, I call my dad then when we get to Maybell, and I'm like, I think that buck's bigger than you think. He's like, well, we'll see. We'll put a tape on him when we get home. I'm like, all right, cool. So we get home, and, we've killed a lot of big animals out guiding and everything, and we throw the tape on him, and we had him come out to 189 is what we taped him to. Dang. And so I was like, it took him back big time, but I was just over the moon excited. Like, yeah, hell yeah, man. That's an awesome deer. He was awesome to begin with, but I was like, that's a big buck.
That's a big buck.
Everybody, I sent a picture to right away, was like, yeah, that's a big buck. I don't know. I think you're a little off at 160. I'm like, all right, well, we'll see. And I'm like, maybe we did some addition wrong or something. So we take him down to the taxidermist. That way he can, we had got him to the garage, caped him, everything, took the head off, and then I actually left the hide on the head, and I was going to let the taxidermist do that part just because I figured, you know what? Paying him already, might as well. So that's exactly why. So I take it down there to him, and I'm like, hey, if you got a minute, would you mind taping him real quick? So he just tapes him super fast, and he pulls him up at 186 right away. So I'm like, all right, I'll take it. 186, that's good with me. That's the number I've been running with. My unit $10, 186, and I'm just more than happy with him. And that's the adversity, the people, the time with my dad, it's just, what an amazing hunt. I just love it. So,
you hit your goal, and it's kind of cool that you thought it wasn't going to be that, and it was that.
Yeah, exactly. I have never, as a guide, as a hunter, I have never actually looked at an animal and been like, that's a 180 bucked, right? I'm going to use that as a reference. Walk up to it and not been like, shit, man, I am nervous that I told this hunter that was 180 buck, right? Like, I'm like, I think he got small, like ground shrinkage every time, no matter what. This buck, I just kept getting bigger. And, you know, I mean, what better? I couldn't be happier with that problem, you know? So
just keeps getting bigger. I love it. I love it.
Shit, he might be a 200-inch buck next time I measure him. We'll just see.
Yeah.
No.
Why not?
No.
That's sweet,
but,
dude. Well,
no,
that's
it's
awesome.
just good time. Good time.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's cool to hear the hunting stories because you can learn, like people that aren't experienced with hunting can learn from what was going through your head.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, if anything, like I'd hope that somebody takes from this, like, don't let that adversity, you know, bring you down. Like, I mean, it was miserable in -20, and like the floor defrost in the truck quit working, of course. Like, you know, just random stuff. Like everything that could be against us was against. Water was frozen. You know, didn't have any water. You know, just random stuff. And you got to push through that stuff. It's part of hunting, and you got to have the fun with it, I think. You know.
Yeah. No.
So.
But that's what makes it like so sweet. You
Oh
know?
yeah.
If it was just so easy, then it's like.
Oh yeah, those are the memories. That's what you know, that is the part of the hunt that I remember even to this day. Like I remember those does with the snow on their head just looking miserable, like even more than the like trying to shoot the damn thing and falling apart completely, you know? Like even out of all of that, I still remember the hard times, you know, and the
Dude, sweet. And then you get to spend time with your dad.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
learn from your dad.
Yep, that's
so it was a grand slam.
Exactly.
It was a grand slam there, brother. Big buck and a grand slam.
Hell yeah, brother.
Well, dude, that's sweet.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll wrap this one up and see if
that's the story of AJ's ginormous buck.
Yeah.
And hopefully you guys that are listening, that got you going ready for hunting season. And those of you who are lucky enough to get out to Colorado on a deer hunt.
Yeah, chase the big one.
Yeah,
Don't get the big one. He might be a little one when you shoot him, but he'll grow. Don't worry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you for listening. And we'll have more content like this pumping out. We're just getting started. So we appreciate you listening. And thanks, AJ, for talking about that, bro. That's cool.
Yeah, love it.
Cool.
Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one, guys.
All right. Peace out. Love you. Later.